Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another edition of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder, where we're here to do something a little different than we've done in the past.
Yes, if you're new and returning, yeah, we're doing something different. We decided to take a little break from culture war stuff, mainly because for a couple of reasons. One, it's getting a little tiring for us to talk about, and two, there's not that much to talk about.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, if you want to know what's going on with Reedy Creek, go watch Legal Mindset. If you want to get into the minutia of upcoming things, Midnight's Edge is there. If you, we do kind of like we have fun with the box office analysis, but you got Valiant Renegade to really do it
Yeah,
on like a super deep level. So we
yeah, we
decided that
we yeah.
it'd be
Sorry.
more fun to like actually watch pieces of media and engage with them than to be kind of passing along information we read from other sources.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so we kind of went from so we decided to do kind of like a film threat esque thing where we're just going to be looking at some movies and some TV shows and give our thoughts on them.
Yep, can be, and doing a mix of new and old stuff.
Yes, yeah, and we'll start off here with Blue Beetle.
Yep. So last weekend, my dad just unexpectedly said, "Hey, want to go see Blue Beetle?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Uh, this one, people who have been paying attention for a bit might have noticed me kind of waffling on whether I wanted to see this or not, because I don't have like a great affection for Jaime Reyes, mostly because I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC,
Mm,
so I haven't read a lot of
yeah.
his comics. He was an amusing character in The Brave and the Bold, mostly because he was a teenager and his teacher was the Huntress, who he does definitely hot for teacher for. Or if she wasn't his teacher, then like she was a teacher at his college or whatever.
uh, all right.
People who have watched Young Justice will also know the character from there.
Yep.
So this was kind of an interesting. It was an interesting experience because on the one hand they made some pretty major mistakes in my opinion, but on the other hand,
Mm,
it's like well-meaning. It's a well-meaning movie that kind of deserves to be launched at a different time
yeah.
because just a kind of quick side tangent before I get into my thoughts on the movie itself. I remember reading ages ago somebody saying that what Disney doesn't want DC to flop and fail because uh, it
Yeah.
because it's going to undercut the whole idea of the superhero movie.
Mm,
And there's enough people out there who don't know which is which. Even if you have the big title crawl at the beginning and like your ads, you say, "Oh, it's a DC movie."
yeah.
Well, why isn't Spider-Man helping?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There are plenty of newbies out there who don't know the difference between the two franchises. Yeah.
Yep. So to get into the movie proper, to kind of just break it down because it doesn't necessarily need a super in-depth plot thing, and it is a new enough movie that you know I I I think I'll give my quick non-spoiler thought here, which is
Hmm.
it's good, it's worth watching. If you feel like you know a pity buy, it's probably worth a matinee at least.
All right.
Uh, if you still like superhero movies for some reason after Marvel has spent the last few years trying to drive it out of you, then this is probably I ended up seeing this and The Flash. Additional
Mm,
sidebar: my dad is like the biggest DC fan, at least when it comes to their movies and TV shows.
Uh,
I
Yeah.
think there's like been an absurd amount of DC material for a while now because we're
Yeah.
not just counting the movies. You've got multiple. You get, they tried to have that DC TV streaming service. They had the CW stuff. Here you go.
Yeah.
Who's watching all that stuff? My dad, more or less. He actually watched the Gotham Knights and more or less enjoyed himself.
Oh, all right.
All right, so back onto this movie.
Yeah.
So the movie did some interesting things. Uh, it it was a question I had in my mind: are they going to acknowledge the previous Blue Beetles? And the answer is they acknowledged one.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'll kind of give the big picture, then get into kind of the character and actor stuff. So big picture. Previously, this city that was down in the Florida Keys, I forget the name of it, uh, was protected by the Blue Beetle, and it's kind of a
Okay.
company town in the sense that, or company city in the sense that you have this big Cord Industries, who's a military contractor.
Yeah.
Ted Cord, who was secretly Blue Beetle, disappeared a few years back and has not been seen since.
Okay.
This is not the order in which the events are presented in the movie, but I'm just kind of giving that background. Like that was an interesting choice because that's the sticking point with the Jaime Reyes character. Except for some people, it's like it doesn't matter that Jaime is a perfectly fine character. They want Ted Cord Blue Beetle, darn it, and to have him team up with Booster Gold, darn it,
Yeah.
because they liked Justice League International in the '80s.
Ah, yes.
So so that's that was a good choice to acknowledge him. Uh, but Ted Core disappeared, and his evil sister, played by Susan Sarandon, uh, takes over the company and kind of does the Ironmonger thing, where they're he had come in and Tony Starked it up by making the company more peaceful. She comes back in, and they're now working on the OMAC project, which longtime DC readers will recognize as One Man Army Corps, which was which, depending on the version,
Mhm.
it's in this case it's a set of super battle armor.
Ah, and Ninja's here. Good to see you, man.
Yep.
And he says, "It's not my Blue Beetle," says some fanboys.
Yep. Um, so that's kind of the backdrop. But where the movie really is about is it's about Jaime Reyes and his family.
Hmm.
So Jaime has just come back from Gotham University. He was like wearing a Gotham State hoodie when he shows up,
Okay.
and he's picked up by his family: mother, father, uncle, dad's brother, who's his uncle, um, grandmother, sister.
Okay.
So a nice little extended family all living together. And he finds out, like he's gotten back with his pre-law degree, and he's
Yeah.
found out in the course of an afternoon that his dad's repair shop has been shut down because they ran out of money. They're going to be evicted from the house in not too much more time. Like
Uh,
why did and his dad had a heart attack while he was away.
oh, jeez.
Like, well, why didn't you tell me about this? Oh, mijo, we didn't want to worry you.
Okay.
You were so focused on your school.
What? Jeez.
So so he decides, you know what? I got this degree. I'm in all this debt because of the degree, and it's kind of implied that putting him through school may have been what helped ruin their finances, on top of some gentrification stuff going on.
Mhm.
On top of that,
Yeah.
uh, being driven by Cord Industries' investments in real estate, among other things.
Ah.
So he ends up, I'm going to go get a great job. And he and his sister are scraping gum off the bottom of benches
Uh,
for Cord Industries.
mm,
So while he's there, he runs into Ted Cord's beautiful Brazilian daughter,
uh,
uh, and he ends up getting fired from his pool boy job along with his sister. But
mm,
she's, I feel bad about this. The reason he gets fired is because he intervenes in sort of a nonsensical way in the argument that between the Susan Sarandon and the and her niece. Like
Oh.
it didn't quite make sense. Like he was trying to cover for his sister because his sister was like, "I'm going to go take an executive crap." So she was in like the private bathroom, and so he was like standing watch and trying to draw attention away from her.
Oh. Okay.
But the niece feels bad, so like, hey, come to Cord Industries tomorrow, and I'll see about getting you a job.
Mm, okay.
So things are looking up.
Yeah.
Uh, Now you find out that there is this artifact. Actually, no, you don't know what the artifact is yet. But there's like this blue beetle thing, and the niece steals it from the lab. A major plot hole that I will talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
But it's discovered that this thing is missing, and she gives it to Jaime for protection, so that because no one's going to suspect him of having it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't get the job, but so they're like, you got this. It's a burger box. Like you went down there for a job. Why did she give you a burger? They proceed to, like, even though she specifically said don't open the box, the family, of course, is a bunch of goofs when you get down to it, and they decide to open the box.
Uh,
And the box decides it likes him best and bonds with him Venom style.
uh, yeah.
And from here, one review I saw said, once you start watching the movie, you can kind of see where everything is going.
Mm,
And this is very true. So I'm going to kind of avoid getting, I think once the basic setup is done, it is a phase one Marvel movie. Let's
yeah.
talk the tropes.
Uh,
You have a main character whose villain is an evil, seemingly stronger version of themselves,
uh, yeah.
made by an evil corporate scientist or whatever. So it's he's got an Ironmonger to his Iron Man, an Abomination to his Hulk, a Yellow Jacket to his Ant Man.
Yes.
So again, I don't want to get into it too much. Um, does it woke mildly?
Yeah.
The dad is an illegal immigrant, and this is presented in a very positive light.
Mm.
Uh, Grandma was a communist revolutionary at some point in her backstory, which is used to justify the fact that she can use a chain gun that they use to try to rescue him, Jaime at some point. The grandmother is a treat. Like she's a little fire keg.
Yeah.
Fire keg, is that a word? Yeah, she should be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
um, those are the two, and there's like little bits in here about uh, like when the guy said there were themes of colonialism. I guess I didn't see there was like little bits of it where like with one of the villains' backstories that were kind of relayed in flashback.
Uh,
Holy Ninja says, "Well, unfortunately, Jaime's only recurring nemesis is the Black Beetle." Yeah, in this one, it's what the main minion turned into Carapax, which is I don't have no idea what that's supposed to be. Um,
yeah.
via the One Man Army project, which is basically just waiting to unlock the Scarab to give them the data they needed.
Uh,
Uh, so let's talk about the acting. There were some actors who stood out. There was this scientist who it has like very sympathetic eyes. Who, if you've ever watched What We Do in the Shadows, he's Guillermo. And he is exceptionally good at playing characters who are just put upon and you feel bad for. In this case, Susan Sarandon keeps calling him Jimenez, even though that isn't no Sanchez. She keeps calling him Sanchez, even though it's not actually his last name.
yeah.
Uh, the lead star, Holo Mariduena. Uh, Actually, I don't know if there's an Enye. Might be Mariduena.
Mhm,
I'll just go with the Holo because it's XOLO.
mhm.
He's from Cobra Kai. He is very good and convincing in the role.
Okay.
In fact, the only character I would say is kind of a nothing is the sister, but that's
Mhm.
because she's kind of a bratty Gen Zer, which sounds worse now that I say that out loud. because she's not like making TikTok videos or anything
Yeah.
stereotypical and obnoxious like that. She's
Yeah.
just kind of she's the one who's willing to be blunt with him, but
Yeah.
like she's also kind of immature. Like the whole like her and her uncle, played by George Lopez, were the ones who started playing with the box and wanting to open it, even though he was told specifically not to.
Yeah.
So George Lopez, his character got some controversy in the ad campaign for the line "Batman is a fascist."
Yeah.
The character is a crazy conspiracy theorist who makes electronic devices that are designed to like interfere uh, with surveillance and things like that. He
Uh,
refuses when they pick up Jaime from the airport. He refuses to go in because, quote, that's how the cameras get you.
okay. Okay.
So, no, the movie does not hate Batman like some people were saying in advance. Like, okay, so side tangent. It's supposed to be the SJWs who ascribe the intent of all characters in a story with the author.
Yeah.
Please have nuance. Please don't judge things based on the trailer. If the movie had been like, and the character also says, "Oh, Blue Beetle, I liked it. Yeah, he was like Batman, just not quite as good. But I
Uh,
liked him because Batman's a fascist."
yeah.
So, so basically, not quite Alex Jones.
Yeah.
He's not Alex Jones. First off, he doesn't have a platform, but he
Yeah.
is very conspiratorial and crazy. Um, I would say that the actor who just made me feel the most was Damien Alcazar, who plays Jaime's dad. In every scene he was in, he was very compelling, and I just felt like I wanted to watch more of him because he's a hardworking, salt of the earth kind of guy,
Yeah.
and I can separate my own political feelings about immigration reform from, well, regardless, he showed up, brought his whole family in, and has worked his behind off for decades on end to provide for his family. So I don't doubt that he is a good person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's the other thing that people were calling woke, but it's like, yeah, you're kind of right, but it's also like the attribution error. Is having a character like that mean that that's the only aspect of them?
Mhm. Yeah.
No.
No.
So yeah, I'm kind of legitimately unhappy that this movie isn't doing better than it is because I feel like this movie was damaged by Black Adam and Shazam 2 and Flash and an
Yeah.
awful release window and being delayed for so many years because of pandemic issues.
Yeah. And James Gunn rebooting the whole franchise, and yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a fine movie. It's not changing anything. The whole dynamic between him and his suit is it's like Venom but not funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the Venom symbiote in that Venom movie was always like in the back of his head talking to him and making jokes, where
Yeah.
this is like much more the humor is much more that it's like cold and calculating.
Okay, that was something I was wondering about, like if the scarab was talking to him.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
Which actually brings me to so there were three weird things.
Okay.
One I thought was weird that wasn't actually weird after talking with a Vietnamese coworker.
Yeah.
Uh, so if you watch the movie,
Yeah.
Jaime never says a single complete sentence in Spanish.
Huh.
Yeah. Like they all have different degrees of English versus Spanish. The grandmother is 100% Spanish. The dad and everybody else switches between or switches to different degrees.
Yeah.
Uh, but it felt weird to me to have like his dad pouring his heart out to him in Spanish, and he'd reply in English.
Oh.
But talking with a coworker of mine who like he's second or third generation Vietnamese immigrant,
Mhm.
Like that's actually very typical where like the you lose a little bit more of the language every generation. It's like he can understand a decent amount, but he can't really speak it.
Oh, yeah.
So and when I thought about it, it's like, well, okay, Jaime is not that far removed, but then again, he is the college boy, so
Right. Yeah.
he he might be the most anglified of the bunch.
Hmm.
So that was weird thing number one that turned out not to be weird.
Mm.
There's one thing I was is kind of a blatant plot hole, and then there's another thing that could be like, it's kind of like bad world building.
Okay.
So when Ted Kord's daughter steals the scarab,
Yeah.
she steals the pass of the fat scientist, sneaks into the lab, steals the scarab in his using his burger box, and then gets out.
Hmm.
In the next scene, he is entering the lab, and he notices the scarab is gone. What? Uh, Daniel, what is the problem with this from like a continuity perspective?
Wouldn't he notice that the burger was box was missing first?
Oh no, I might have. She steals his pass.
Oh, steal the pass. Right. Right. Oh.
That,
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I forget. I might have said that wrong, but
Okay.
like she steals his pass, uses it to enter the lab. There is not a scene where she returns the pass to him because there
Oh.
couldn't be a scene where she returns the pass to him because then he'd be like, "Why do you have my burger box?"
Oh. Yeah.
So how did he get in the lab, and why wasn't he immediately on high alert to,
Yeah.
that the pass card was missing?
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
This is one where I listened to a little bit of the Midnight's Edge roundtable talk about that, and some
Yeah.
people said like that was like the first plot hole that took me completely out of the movie, and it's just the movie is full of contrivances like that. Like that's the only one that went above the level of simple coincidence to my mind.
Okay.
So that was like the first weird thing. The second weird thing is how they completed the OMAC, because like the Blue Beetle is an alien space weapon, and
Hmm.
they have managed to turn the OMAC into something that more or less can copy its functions, just initially not as well.
Mm.
Um, but what they have to do is they have to get I believe it's the code from the Blue Beetle scarab.
Oh.
Now, the problem I have with that is it seems to me that that reverse engineering alien technology is less of a hardware issue or less of a software issue and more of a hardware issue.
Mm.
It's like the equivalent of going, oh well, if I download a new version of if I download a new version of Windows onto my Pentium from 2000, I can play Crisis on full graphics, right?
No.
Yeah. So as soon as they download this data, suddenly he goes from like the suit kind of covers half of his body to full Mandalorian mask looking mode.
Yeah.
So there's like a few things like that. Also, but it did manage to avoid what I'd say that my biggest worry I had when I realized the movie was more or less about his family rather than him was that he would fall into the background and be kind of inconsequential.
Uh,
Yeah, kind of like what happened with Shazam, where suddenly in the 11th hour, the entire family has the identical power set.
yeah. Yeah.
They did not do that. Like he's still like other characters are important, but he's still driving a lot of things.
Mm.
This is just a very nice, serviceable superhero movie with a few issues you can poke holes in based on now whether it's political and you can't relax for a minute when the movie is otherwise okay,
Yeah.
and uh, and whether you notice more plot holes than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally fine movie, worth your time at the very least when it comes to streaming.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your thing of the week. Me, on the other hand,
Yeah,
so as the official critique corner Disney Plus correspondent, I decided to take the plunge, and I watched the first two episodes of Ahsoka.
You sound
Uh,
so excited. Is this what saves Disney Star Wars?
no, not even close. Not even close. Which is disappointing because I like the character of Ahsoka. I know most Star Wars fans like Ahsoka. You know, they liked her in Clone Wars and by extension Rebels. So getting a live action version of her, oh great. No. Um, so uh, so first of all, and speaking of Rebels, if you didn't watch Rebels, you are going to be so lost when you want if you try to watch this because
Hmm.
because this show picks up um, after Rebel. Well, okay, so the last episode of Rebels, they flash forward to after the Empire fell and the rebellion won,
Hmm.
and that's where this picks up. So it kind of it's similar time frame.
Kind of in the
Um,
same timeline as The Mandalorian, maybe a bit earlier.
I think it's in the same timeline as Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's when the end of Rebels is. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not up on the timeline. You know, it's kind of a mess.
Daniel, are you telling me that you, somebody who is familiar with the title character, didn't do a bunch of extra homework to prepare yourself for this show?
Uh, well, no, I didn't. Or at least I didn't
We're
go back and review
we're
it.
paying you too much for to be our Disney correspondent. We are
I
disappointed.
I know, yeah, I know. Well. Here's the thing. Like, I did watch Rebels, but that was like 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't. I mean, I
Wow.
remembered. Yeah,
So you're much better prepared than the average normie who just enjoyed The Mandalorian and wonders who this red lady is.
yeah, yes. And so, but yeah, so I kind of remember some of the characters, but and some of the plot lines, and I kind of remember how it ended. But there's some stuff there's some characters that kind of threw in there. Went, okay, do I remember him? Is that somebody I should remember? Is that, but anyway, so Ahsoka picks up, uh, like I said, kind of around the same time frame as the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and it starts off where Ahsoka has arrested a night sister named Morgan. But then on the New Republic ship where she's on, it gets boarded by these two. I don't know if I would call them Sith, but definitely not good Jedi. Uh, One of them is the master is played by the late Ray Stevenson, and then there's a girl that's with him. I don't know. I can't remember the girl's name. I don't even know if that was mentioned or not. Maybe it was. I don't.
Whatever.
Whatever. But so they board the ship and then they spring Morgan and then they because they need her because they're trying to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, at the end of Rebels, what happened was the rebel the crew from I can't remember the name of the ship. Um, they managed to trap Thrawn on his star destroyer, and Ezra traps him there. And they use these alien things that I think they were like like space whales or something. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I never actually watched Rebels, but I heard that there were space whales.
Yeah, and they were capable of hyperspace travel, and they used Ezra. They use them, and Ezra traps them on the Star Destroyer, and they fly off to another galaxy. So that's what happens to Thrawn and Ezra, and so they're trying to get Thrawn back, and they hinted at this at the end. I guess they hinted at this at the end of the Mandalorian, where with what's his name's character, uh, Giancarlo Esposito,
Okay.
that they hinted at that they were that they were trying to bring him back. They're trying to bring Thrawn back, and so then Ahsoka goes into the ruins of this temple that was run by the Night Sisters, and she solves this little puzzle, and she gets this orb that's a map. Sound from Stop me if any of this is sounding familiar.
I've heard people describe that whole bit as being like from a video game.
It was, yeah. Yeah, this whole thing is it's like the Rise of Skywalker. It has a video game plot. Um, yeah, so Ahsoka gets the orb, and then she gets attacked by these HK droids, the assassin droids. And then they self-destruct and blow up, and then Ahsoka makes this big escape on her ship, and the droid that she's with, his name is Yang something. If you watch Clone Wars, he's this droid that was part of the Jedi Order, and he was the one who helped the younglings get their lightsabers.
Okay.
And so he's working with Ahsoka now. And it just says, so a bunch of pointless filler. Yeah, pretty much. So, and then when she gets the map, she goes and meets with Syndulla, she's the Twi'lek from Rebels. And
the galaxy's only clothed Twi'lek.
Yes, exactly. And of course, they can't figure out the map, and Ahsoka's, and then Syndulla tells Ahsoka, well, maybe Sabine Wren can help her out. And of course, and it turns out Ahsoka and Sabine had a falling out because Ahsoka was training Sabine to be as her apprentice.
She was the punk
Mandalorian.
rock Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, she was the punk rock Mandalorian. And and there's a whole scene in there where she's riding on her speeder bike listening to punk music. Like, okay, there's punk music in Star Wars.
I mean, there's multicolored Power Ranger Vespas in Star Wars after Mandalorian or after Boba Fett, so why not?
Yeah. I don't know Ninja. I can't tell you why. So then she shows up, and of course the only reason Sabine is even interested in this is because it could be their way for them to find Ezra, and which kind of interests her. And of course, Ahsoka tells Sabine, you can't take the map off the ship, and But then, of course, she leaves. Ahsoka leaves Sabine alone with the map. So guess what Sabine does?
Respects Ahsoka's wishes and just goes to find another way.
Not quite.
I'm usually so good at predicting things.
Yeah. And, hey, Chinggis, good to see you. How's that Ahsoka show so far? Not that good.
Worse than Blue Beetle.
Yes. And why did they split them up? I don't know.
Conflict,
yes. So Sabine goes, and then she's looking at the map, and she actually manages to decipher it, but wouldn't you know, doggone it, assassin droids show up, along with the I guess Sith apprentice, and she and Sabine have this little lightsaber duel where Sabine's using Ezra's lightsaber that he left her. It doesn't go well for Sabine, and then she gets stabbed in the chest with the lightsaber. Now, you get stabbed in the chest, one would think, nobody's going to be able to survive that.
Right, that's what killed Obi-Wan, or excuse me, what killed Qui-Gon.
Killed Qui-Gon. But next episode, she wakes up in the hospital and she's perfectly fine. So if we learned anything from this, and then Obi-Wan, it's getting stabbed with a lightsaber means nothing.
Because I mean, Kylo. Actually, no. It only affects you if you're a man because Kylo was dying from it before Rey healed him
Right. Yeah. 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 Ninja says you can recover from a lightsaber wound. Eh?
without having to get new hand parts.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also says, just imagine if you're a Rebels fan finding out that the ending scene with Ahsoka and Sabine, just to see that they got split apart almost immediately. Well, that's the thing. I think that scene in Rebels where it ends, I think is where this picks up at the end of episode 2. I could be wrong, but I think they're kind of like,
So it's not like a
yeah,
straight one. It's like this might be a prequel to that moment.
right, yeah. I think don't quote me on that, but yeah. Um, and yeah, Chinggis, damn lightsabers kind of suck now. Well, yeah, under Disney Star Wars they do. Um, and so uh, then Sabine tells Ahsoka that she deciphered the map, but she couldn't. But she couldn't save any of the data, and all her computers got trashed. And so then they do a little digging, and of course, Ahsoka operates under this assumption that there's actually a droid that's still hiding in Sabine's house. So she shows up, and sure enough, there is, and she kills the droid, and they and they hack into the droid's head, and yeah, I know weird. And then they figure out that the I think that the droid came from Corellia. And if you know your Star Wars lore, Corellia is the big shipyard, and
Home
that's
of Han
where
Solo.
the home planet of Han Solo. And they go to so Ahsoka and Syndulla go to Corellia, and then they find out that the shipyard that they're working at is still working for the Empire.
Dun
And
dun dun.
dun dun dun, yeah. And then another one of the bad Jedi show up and fights Ahsoka, and Syndulla has to put a tracking device on the ship that's escaping, and we see the return of Chopper, the ill-tempered astromech droid from Rebels, who just kind of
Wow. Okay. So just listening to you talk about this,
yeah.
this is way more aggressively a continuation of Rebels than I was expecting.
It is, yes, yeah. And like I said, unless you watched Rebels, all the way through, yeah, you're not going to know who any of these people are, and you're not going to get like the whole, especially like the scene with Chomper. Like you're not going to get like what's the deal with him? Like why does he sound like that, and why is he wise, you know giving wise to Syndulla? Like what's going on there?
So Ninja steals the question I was about to ask. So why wasn't this just another season of Rebels?
Good question. It should have been. This series probably would have been better received and better uh better received if it had been animated as opposed to being live action. Yeah. it, it's yeah, I and of course, taking all that, the rest of that aside, like um the whole show is just like it was, I hate to say it, pretty dull. Like I was kind of having a hard time just kind of keeping my attention on it. Like the um the performances from all the actors are pretty stunted. Like they're just kind of like they act like they really don't want to be there. you know.
Which a Ninja asked the question, did they
Yeah.
just not want to make another animated season? And it occurs to me that
Mhm.
Disney doesn't seem to care for animation these days. So
Yeah, there you go. Uh Chinggis asked, wait, how much of the show actually focuses on Ahsoka herself? Not enough.
Because I never watched Rebels, but Ahsoka wasn't like a main character in Rebels, right? She would show up
Mm.
periodically.
Right. Yeah.
So taking her titular show and turning this into Rebels season 4 seems strange.
Yeah. Yeah. It, yeah.
Like how could the House of Mouse have possibly made that decision? It's not like they made a Doctor Strange sequel and made it about America Chavez and Scarlet Witch, or that's really the prime example that comes to mind. But
Yeah. Yeah. Or an Indiana Jones movie about his goddaughter.
yeah,
Yeah. It's. I mean, so far I'm not too impressed with it. Um, and and it could very well be like I mean, I've heard good things about Andor. That that show, it started off slow, but it actually turned out to be pretty good. Pretty good. I
ah,
don't know if that's gonna happen with this one or not.
see, see, Dave Filoni. I've watched like a couple seasons of Clone Wars.
Hmm.
Um, that show did not rely on being slow paced
No.
and build up. So that kind of makes me think that this is not going to pay off well.
Yeah. Well, and also well, in what that show, each episode was like 20 plus minutes, and so
Yeah,
it had to get going. Yeah.
yeah. Long run times. The long run times that streaming and digital film have provided us have not been a boon to entertainment.
No, they haven't. And to answer Ninja's question, the first episode was like 48 minutes, and I think the second one was like 45. And yeah, so it's yeah.
That's basically a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ninja says, yeah, you had a strong female character. Why not focus on her? Well, it wasn't. The problem is they focused on one, two, three. You had two other strong female characters that you have to, for some reason, they had to focus on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed
yeah, yeah,
because I would have thought that the original creator coming back to do a live action show about this character would have been something, but guess not.
yeah. Well, Filoni has been very hit and miss lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think unless he has John Favreau there to kind of rein him in, you're going to end up with this.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But speaking of hit and miss, I think it's time for us to move on to our box office analysis.
Yes.
Because Blue Beetle deserved better than a $25 million opening weekend. It's not amazing, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that right there. Like people were talking, I talked with someone at work, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this was a big success. I heard it was number one movie." Like, no.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that makes sense because I heard I did better than Barbie, but then I realized that Barbie been out for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Is this the first time Barbie's been dethroned as number one?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because Ninja Turtles gave like a couple of movies have beaten Oppenheimer for that number two spot, but Barbie and Oppenheimer are just linked up with their weird like Oppenheimer is X, Barbie is 2X link the whole summer.
Yeah.
Um, Ninja Turtles continues to have decent holds. I have also Blue Beetle is like doing nothing internationally. So either let's see here, international. Okay, the biggest market is Mexico, so that's not
Mhm.
entirely
Not
surprising.
no.
Followed by Brazil, United Kingdom, France, Indonesia, India, Spain. Yeah, so it's like it's not doing. Uh, actually, no, I'm starting to think. Yep, no China release.
Yeah. Huh.
I know that that the Chinese market isn't fond of of black people. I don't know what their opinion of Latinos is.
Probably not any better.
Maybe some, I don't know. Probably maybe somewhat better, but either way, didn't bother getting it released for China.
Yeah.
Not that it would have probably made them much money anyway.
Mhm.
But it's just kind of a disappointment. It's because what I find funny is that every time there's one of these movies comes out, like The Flash or now this, people talk like this is the end of the road, and it's
Yeah.
like everybody forgets that there's Aquaman 2 showing up.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any hope for that movie.
No. But yeah, everyone talked about The Flash like it was the end of the road. Now they're talking about Blue Beetle like it's the end of the road.
Yeah.
Are you guys just wanting to be done? You know what? This is like the pathetic last breaths of the Snyderverse as it sputters out.
Yeah.
Changus, China tried not to be racist, challenged, failed.
Yeah.
Um, Ninja Turtles is holding in there. It's doing nothing internationally either, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like, to give you an idea, Ninja Turtles. Actually, I wonder if it has been released in Japan yet. It
Uh,
has. It has not. Okay.
has not. Okay.
I'll be curious to know how well it does in Japan because uh, Japan was like a big enough market for Ninja Turtles that they actually hired an anime studio to make 4 additional episodes to support some Japan only toys that they came out with, where the
Wow.
Ninja Turtles did like a Power Rangers transformation.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, a movie that I've heard literally nobody talk about, Strays.
Yeah.
I only know that this movie existed because when I went to go see what was that movie I went to a few weeks back that I actually kind of enjoyed, and now I feel silly that I don't remember the name of it.
Joyride?
Joyride, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a trailer in front of Joyride.
Yeah.
It's basically Will Ferrell and some other people as talking dogs doing weird and adult things. I think Strays actually has a decent comedic premise because you just have this dog who loves his owner so much that the owner just like literally wants him dead. So he abandons him in the middle of the city. It's like, you left me behind on purpose? Yeah, man, but it's a good life out here. No, we're gonna go home. I'm going to bite off his. But like the opening is just full of lots of drug jokes, so it seems kind of uninspired. I
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody bother to review this thing.
Mm,
There's a reason they're dumping it in August.
yes.
Continuing on down, Meg 2 The Trench has a sub 50% hold, so or drop. So
Yeah, not
it's
bad.
not at this point. It's probably not going to make its money back because most of that international money is coming out of China, where they get a quarter back. So,
Yeah.
but not too big of some Barbie money will help fix that.
Yes. Yeah.
Haunted Mansion, the movie that should have come out around Halloween, continues its drop.
Yes, because they needed to give the Marvels more time for some reason.
Uh, it's going to be the best movie ever, Daniel.
I know, I know.
There's 3 strong women. What name one show that you've talked about in the last half hour with 3 strong women that wasn't amazing?
Oh yeah, you got me there.
uh, Talk to Me horror movie. No thoughts, no opinions.
Yeah.
Um, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning continues to slowly wither and die.
Yeah.
It will end its domestic box office run a little bit behind Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at this rate.
Mm,
But
yeah.
it smokes internationally, so it's a race to see who's the biggest, nearly $300 million bomb of a movie.
Well, I think we all know what my money's on.
Yeah. Then we got The Sound of Freedom, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah.
It's kind of spent at this point, it looks like, but
Yes.
it's It has more domestic box office at this point than Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible.
Oof. Yeah.
I had not noticed that it had caught up that much. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Um, then week 2, Last Voyage of the Demeter. Yeah,
Yeesh.
hyperbomb.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a good write off for Universal.
Yep. Then you got Elemental, who has more box office to it than Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible. Nope, it's
No.
behind Mission Impossible, but you know what? For where it started off, more than $450 million combined, international and international, is so much higher than I was expecting for this thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I was thinking Buzz Lightyear. That's what
Yeah,
I thought. I thought it was gonna be in Lightyear
it's
territory.
it's more than double the Lightyear.
Yeah.
Mind
Yeah.
you, it's still not profitable because they put ding 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 $200 million into this thing plus whatever ads they did run.
Yeah. Which I don't
So
think were many.
I think they had a Super Bowl ad,
Oh, that's right. They had a Super Bowl ad. Yeah.
so they spent at least that much money.
Yeah.
But like for a $29 million opening, it's got these are technically Top Gun Maverick legs just from a small starting place.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it shows that just being kind of uninspired as a family movie isn't a bad thing because maybe they don't want their kids to be challenged. It's like I want to get some air conditioning and eat some popcorn and have those kids uh, stop screaming at me for 3 minutes during the summer break.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that not really any surprises this week.
No.
Do we have any big releases coming up? What is coming up?
Uh,
I think the next big one might be Equalizer 3.
Oh, I didn't know they did an Equalizer 3.
Yeah, September 1st. I've seen a couple of ads for it, specifically on Paramount, I think.
Wow. Uh,
So,
all these old guys doing action movies.
modern nutrition and supplements and stuff keep them doing it. So,
Yeah, that's true.
might as well cash in.
Yeah.
But that September 1st launch date is not a vote of confidence.
No. Well, the first two movies I don't think were big hits. I think they were modest hits.
Let's find out. Yeah, you're right. Neither
Yeah.
one cracked 200 million internationally.
Yeah.
So that's 10 years? Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But folks, this is also part of why we decided to stop talking about the culture war stuff, and it's not just us being tired of it. It's more just like, what culture is there to war over?
Yeah. Yeah. What are we getting mad about again?
Yeah. We know that this Snow White movie is a dumpster fire. We've known that this Snow White movie is going to be a dumpster fire. Gosh,
4 years.
yeah, however long they've been working on it.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, like, big surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we've exhausted this topic, as you like
Yes.
to say.
Yeah.
The box office, it's no surprises but there is some injustice there.
Yes.
If you didn't see my review of Blue Beetle, it is a totally fine movie. If you don't like, it's basically a Phase 1 Marvel movie. I encourage people to actually give it a shot.
Mm.
Because I did enjoy myself quite a bit.
Yeah.
Way better than The Flash. And in The Flash, I even found myself enjoying it somewhat once I got Stockholm syndrome to being able to ignore that there were two Ezra Millers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say as long as it's better than Morbius.
Oh yeah, I mean Morbius is our F standard for superhero movies. Like
Yeah.
that was We have a whole review that you can watch of that.
Yes.
Let's talk about some actual cinema.
Yes.
So, as part of our getting away from talking culture war so much and just getting into talking about movies that are fun,
Hmm.
I decided to finally watch The Wolf of Wall Street along with Daniel, who I brought along
Yes.
kicking and screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. um, yeah. I mean, I've heard all about this movie. Obviously, everybody has. We've all seen the memes. We've all seen.
Hmm.
Everybody's been quoting it.
Yeah, my coworkers are what pushed me into it because they just quote it relentlessly. Like
Yeah.
like when
Yeah.
we're at a meeting, it's like, mm,
Mhm.
like, yeah.
Mm.
How many times a day do you have fun with yourself? Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, yeah. I do it twice a day. uh, so we watched this. I would say classic Martin Scorsese movie, and he's made quite a few classics in his long tenured career in Hollywood. The Wolf of Wall Street is about the rise and subsequent downfall of Jordan Belfort, who is, of course, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And
They're top heavy. They're like lawn darts. Yeah. So the way the movie starts is you have a bunch of Wall Street jerks in a room with like too much alcohol flowing, and they are throwing a dwarf with a helmet on at a target, at a big target, to try to compete for money.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And,
This sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
yes, yeah. And then of course we get some great shots of Margot Robbie. And he's driving. We see him driving around in his Ferrari. And said it was a white Ferrari, not a red one. It was white, like Don Johnson's in Miami Vice.
Yeah.
And so it starts off. His career starts off. He's working for this stockbroker. And his immediate boss is, I can't remember the character's name, but he's played by Matthew McConaughey.
All right. All right.
All right. And and of course he kind of takes him under his wing to show him the ropes, and they go out to lunch, and that's where they do the
Hmm.
and tells him, I have fun with myself twice a day.
Right, because what they have, and by the way, it's like, right, take two martinis, then another in 7.5 minutes, and then another every 5 minutes until one of us passes the f out.
Yeah.
Only he didn't say f.
Yeah.
So, a fun fact about this movie, I believe it still has the unbroken record for the most profanities per minute in a movie.
uh, I can see that.
It averages about according to Wikipedia, it averages about 2.89 profanities per minute.
uh,
Those are rookie numbers. You got to get those up.
yeah,
But yeah, what they emphasize in that scene is that everyone's doing drugs, everyone's drinking, everyone's whacking, everyone's just doing whatever they can to keep their focus, because like Matthew McConaughey says, you're living in numbers and spreadsheets all day. You got to do something or else you'll go insane.
right. Yeah.
But Leo manages to work his way up, or Jordan manages to work his way up the firm, and he finally gets to go trading. And on his very first day, it is Black Monday.
Yeah. Biggest stock market crash since the Great Depression.
He is out on his ass quickly.
Yep. Yeah, and so then he's sitting in his apartment with his wife, not Margot Robbie.
Yeah, when I was watching, I was joking. Boy, he must have paid for his wife to get some work done for her to look like Margot Robbie in the later scenes.
Yeah. Oh, and and I think he also said, yeah, she went from a hairdresser to a model. uh, but then he sees the classified ads that there's a position for a stockbroker out in Long Island. So he drives out there, and you made an interesting observation about him when he's driving the car.
Thank you. Uh, so he's at the strip mall, and he drives by pulling through a bunch of parking spots right into the parking spot he wants up front.
Yeah.
Like not turning like you're supposed to. He drives like an asshole from the start.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Which
this
yeah.
is not the corruption of a good man. It is the corruption of a man who is already willing and ready to be corrupt.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. He's not a nice guy. He's a jerk from the beginning. Yeah, and he just becomes more and more of a jerk.
Yeah, and he gets involved with this very shady outfit that's trading penny stocks.
Yeah.
And the thing about the penny stocks is that you get like a 50% commission. So they spend $10, you get $10.
Yeah. And so he gets into that, and he's very good at it, and starts making a lot of money doing it. And he's sitting down at a diner, and that's when Jonah Hill walks up to him with his
Uh,
with his teeth, white, overly white teeth, and he said, yeah, hey, you live in my building, right? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. And he said, so what do you do? He said, oh, I'm in stocks. And like, oh, how much money you making? I said, well, I made 70 grand last month. What?
well, 72.
72, yeah.
Okay, you show me a pay stub for 72,000, and I will quit my job right now and do whatever and join you.
And he just pulls out his pay stub, and he looks at it, and then next scene they're in a payphone booth, and he's like, yeah, I quit.
By the way, I love your Jonah Hill voice.
Oh, thank you.
It's
And
very
so,
weaselly.
yeah, yeah, I'm going into stocks. Uh, so, then eventually the two of them break off on their own, start their own firm
Yeah.
called was Stratford.
Uh, well,
Oh,
Stratford something, but
Stratford one, yeah.
so what's interesting is that um, now I forget, was it Margot or his first wife who told? No, it must have been his first wife telling him, you're stealing money from plumbers and dentists and stuff. Why don't you go after people who can afford to lose money on a long gamble?
Yeah.
And that's when he decides that they're going to go from this penny ante fraud into high end fraud.
Yeah.
So they class themselves up, get a fancy building, and he writes them a script for for this high pressure sales thing where you lead with Disney and AT&T, and you end up with the penny stocks.
Yeah.
And they really make the money.
Yeah.
And from there,
Yeah.
it's basically it's the progression of not to retell the whole movie, but
Yeah.
it's the progression of new insane levels of corruption
Yes.
and decadence.
Yeah. And the guys that he hires to do all this stuff, they're not exactly the most reputable people.
Yeah, I got a drug dealer.
Yeah. Yeah, what's his name? From the Punisher. Yeah, was one of them. And then to go with Marvel, the Asian guy.
Hmm.
He was one of the Howling Commandos in Captain America: The First
Oh,
Avenger.
hmm,
And yeah, and then he shows up again in the Spider-Man movies. He's the principal of Peter Parker's high school, and he's the grandson of the guy from First Avenger.
okay,
Yeah, so you got two Marvel people in there.
twofer.
Two for yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So it's basically again like it's the rise and fall of this guy who
mhm.
like he keeps making more and more insane bets and taking more and more insane odds.
Yeah, and throw in a lot of drugs and a lot of sex and a lot of
Hardcore nudity.
hardcore. Yeah, I, I still don't think that was actually Jonah Hill's you know what in that scene.
Yeah, where he sees Margot Robbie and he's so blitzed off goofballs that he starts having fun with himself in front of everybody.
Yeah. Ah, what was the other part that got me about this was like the conversations that they have in this movie are just like, oh my God, you could not, number one, you couldn't have those conversations today.
Or if you're having them today, you better be effing sure that you can trust whoever you're having them with.
Yes, yeah. Like the scene with where they're talking about the dwarf tossing. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, somebody's cousin is a dwarf. We can pay him money and throw him at things. Yeah,
it's like,
it's like the lawyers even they have a scene where a lawyer is actually going over the no you can't I forget what all they've like, no you can't light him on fire, no you can't have him fight animals or something, but
yeah,
that type of thing. But you can we throw him at something? We'll get a helmet.
yeah. Uh, and then the other one too is okay. So the other part of it is Jordan brings his father into the business. And his father is played by Rob Reiner, and the that one conversation he's having with his dad about women being hairless, like there is no way on God's green earth I would ever have a conversation like that with my father.
Yeah,
Never in a million years. Like,
yeah, no. uh,
yeah,
it's it's basically like a lot of the scenes seem a little bit a little bit crass and extravagant, but it fits the tone perfectly for this.
yeah. Oh God, the bachelor party.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, it's like also about the criminal investigation that's trying to take him down,
Right.
and some of the crazy amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And Changus, leave your topiary uh, preferences at the table, please.
Yeah. It was, but speaking of the FBI agent, uh, the actor's name was Kyle Chandler,
Mhm.
and little personal story with me with him. He came into my movie theater, the movie theater I worked at one
Hmm.
time, because he was the football coach on Friday Night Lights, the TV show,
Okay.
and they filmed the show in a suburb of Austin. And so he came into my movie theater one time with his family to see. I can't remember what they went and saw, but they saw a movie in there, and I thought it was kind of interesting that he had his wife do all the like buy the tickets and order the concessions, which is
Hmm.
I probably because he was recognizable. I don't know,
Oh
but
yeah, that
but
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, but yeah. So yeah, so the part of what leads to his downfall though is like you said, he's taking a lot of risks and he's getting really cocky, and he even has an out
Yeah.
in the movie. Like John Favreau plays his lawyer, and he tells him, "Hey, you you admit to doing this, this, and this. You'll pay a fine to the SEC if if you resign from your position and you never go into securities or stocks again. The
Mhm.
FBI is not going to go after you." And he's like, okay, fine. So at first he gets him in front of everybody and gives a little speech about that he's stepping down, and everybody gets really teary eyed. And but then he just changes his mind and says, "Nah, I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is the complete story of hubris.
Yeah,
But it is based on a real story, which I had suspected that, but I hadn't known that until I looked into this movie.
yeah. And at the end of the movie, the very last scene in the movie when he's doing the seminar in New Zealand,
Right? Like he can't trade securities, so now he's like a sales seminar guy.
right? The guy who introduces him at the
Mhm.
seminar, that's the real Jordan Belfort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Did you hear that Jordan recently got into another scam? He was part of a crypto scheme. Of course he was.
yes.
There was money to be made. Why wouldn't Jordan Belfort get into another or get into crypto, the biggest scam of all time?
Oh yeah. Well, all I can say is I hope he was at least he was I hope he was at least sober.
Yeah. Oh man, this movie is so quotable, and I've been finding myself quoting it at people with people at work all week since watching it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. I can see why it was so popular. I can see why. Although I don't understand why it didn't sweep the awards.
yeah. Okay. So now I understand. Okay. So you got to understand. I don't necessarily watch a lot of non-genre movies. That's the way I'll
Mm,
put it. Like I watch some, but not necessarily like a lot of what people would call serious cinema.
yeah,
Um, my exposure to Leonardo DiCaprio was that 180 sitcom he was on with Kirk Cameron,
growing pains.
Growing Pains. Thank you.
Mm,
That I haven't seen in 20 years, and Titanic.
mm.
So, so when people kept going, why won't they give Leo his Oscars? Like that guy?
Eh?
No, man. Like he owns this movie. Like he is amazing.
Yeah,
He, there's a scene where he takes expired Quaaludes and is just high out of his effing brain, and he
yeah,
can't move, and he sells it so well.
yeah. He's crawling around on the floor, and then he gets to the stairs, and he just falls down them, and
Yeah,
he
drives home and just
drives. Yes, yeah. Margot Robbie calls him on his car phone, and he's trying to tell her like, I
I can't understand you.
can't understand what are you saying. Would you just get home?
Yeah. Speaking of Margot, I also now understand why people thought it was a big deal that she was in Suicide Squad,
Hmm.
because you get to see almost every inch of her in this movie.
Yeah,
Um, it's also kind of funny to me that I think she was also good doing her Harley voice, kind of.
yeah, she was. Yeah, yeah. The little Brooklyn accent. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and and I will say, I think the of course the infamous scene in the nursery.
Mm.
I think she actually did that.
Yeah.
She showed everything. Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that moment somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody went all out for this movie.
Mhm.
Also, Jonah Hill might be the single most punchable actor in Hollywood. Like he literally gets knocked out in one scene, and you feel nothing for him because he played such an amazing asshole that he deserved. He just felt like, okay, yep, he had that coming.
Yeah. That whole the whole scene when he's hopped up on Quaaludes and he's just like, oh man. Yeah. He's
And
like,
now I actually know what a Quaalude is. So this movie told me that.
yeah, I had heard of them, but for some reason I didn't know that they were pills. I thought they were something else. I thought, yeah,
Yeah, I knew that they were like a Hollywood drug or something like that. But
yeah, they were well, they were the preferred drug of Bill Cosby.
mm, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but the thing I kind of noticed with watching Hill was that I hadn't realized how much motion capture they must have done for Megamind, because like some of the expressions that they had his character doing in that movie were just like dead on to expressions he was making in this movie. So
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like it's this movie is amazing and compelling.
Yes. I think I even said this to you. It's like a train wreck, and not and I don't mean that in a oh god, this movie is terrible.
Right, this is not The Room or anything.
No, no, no. This is it's a train wreck in that you can't look away.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't expecting to watch this in one night. I did.
I didn't. I broke it up and in half. Yeah.
Yep. You also, yeah, it's a 3 hour movie, so it's a bit of a commitment, but
Yeah.
it's a way better use of 3 hours than a lot of the 3 hour movies that have been coming out lately.
That's true. Yeah.
It earns it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I now understand a lot of things that I didn't understand before. So the movie expanded me in that way.
Yes. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, give it a watch if you haven't yet. It's on Paramount Plus.
Yep. I think they might also have it on Hulu or Amazon, but I happened to have Paramount Plus, so that's why I
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah.
Sidebar: Paramount. I know that you're paying money for the rights to these things that you're streaming,
Mm,
and you're like paying, in theory, paying some sort of residuals out. I'd be willing to watch more than two ads at the beginning of the movie, because even when I resumed it a couple hours later after taking a quick break,
mm.
uh, they still didn't show me more ads. Like, if I start and stop the movie, that's fair game to show me more ads.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't give it away too cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of dropping the ball there, Paramount.
Hey, we know you need the money. We've seen your
Oh,
financial reports.
yes. All right. Well, I don't think I have any more to say about this movie.
Nope.
Yeah.
So, members
Yeah.
of the audience, which do you prefer? Do you prefer us being kind of meh? I don't want to be angry about this. Meh, I don't want to be angry about this. Or do you enjoy us watching about movies that are interesting? Comment
Yeah.
below.
Indeed. Yes. And yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you next week. Night,
All
everybody.
the YouTube things.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.